All right, everybody, welcome back. We are ready to dive deep into something really interesting today.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at AI and how AI might be impacting critical thinking skills.
Especially in younger people.
Right, and that's something that we found in this new study that was published in Societies recently.
Mm.
And this study surveyed over 650 people in the UK.
That's a lot of people.
It is. It's a good sample size. And what's interesting about this is
It is.
it's not just about opinions.
Right.
They're looking at like actual data
Exactly.
of, how much people are using these tools and how it's impacting how they think critically.
Yeah.
So let's sort of break this down.
Yep.
One of the big things that this study talks about is cognitive offloading.
Hmm.
And could you sort of unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, so cognitive offloading is basically just like, when you rely on something outside of yourself to remember something?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever, written down a grocery list or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like years and years ago, maybe you just tried to remember everything you needed at the grocery store.
Oh, for sure. And I bet I was much better at it back then.
But now it's like, why bother remembering it if you can just write it down?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or just put it in my phone.
Exactly right. And that's kind of what we're doing with AI now.
Yeah.
It's like all this stuff that we used to have to think about or remember or figure out ourselves. Now we have these tools that do it for us.
I mean, honestly, it makes life so much easier.
It really does.
But it does make you think, though.
Yeah.
If we're constantly relying on AI to do all this thinking for us,
Right.
what's that doing to our brains?
Exactly. And that's kind of what this study is getting at.
Yeah, so one of the main things that they found was this link between AI use and lower critical thinking scores.
Yeah.
And this was especially true for those aged 17 to 25.
Right. Yeah, they're sort of growing up with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually had some quotes in here that were a little bit unsettling.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like one person said, "I sometimes wonder if AI is subtly nudging me towards decisions I wouldn't normally make."
Yeah. And that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, like you're letting something else make decisions for you.
Yeah. Or even influence your decisions
Yeah,
in a way that you're not even aware of.
totally. And another person in the study said that they rarely even think about the biases behind the AI recommendations.
Which is, yeah, that's a little scary.
It is. And I think, it's easy to just blindly trust these recommendations
Hmm.
because they're coming from, this seemingly intelligent system.
Right. It's like, oh, the computer told me to do it, so it must be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, I think it's important to define what we mean by critical thinking.
Yeah, for sure. So when we talk about critical thinking, we're talking about the ability to analyze information, to question assumptions, and to form your own conclusions based on reason and evidence.
Okay, so it's not just about like memorizing facts.
Right. It's about being able to think for yourself.
Yeah, and to figure things out on your own. And I think that's something that's really important in today's world.
Yeah, especially with so much information out there.
Yeah, it's like how do you sift through all that information and figure out what's true, what's not?
Right. And what's biased and what's not. It can
Exactly.
be really hard to do that.
So I guess my question is, I mean, some level of cognitive offloading is probably unavoidable, right?
I think so.
Like we can't be expected to know everything.
I think that's right. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
I think about it kind of like driving a car.
Yeah.
If you always drive everywhere, you never walk, your legs are going to get weaker.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But that doesn't mean you should never drive a car.
Yeah.
It just means you need to make sure you're also getting some exercise.
Okay. Yeah, like everything in moderation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with AI, it's like, yeah, it's great to use these tools to make our lives easier, but we also need to make sure that we're still using our brains.
So, like, what would be some of the implications of this, moving forward, especially for younger generations who are growing up surrounded by AI?
Well, I think one of the big things is for education. I think
Yeah.
we need to really focus on teaching kids how to think critically,
Mhm.
along with all the other stuff they're learning about technology.
Right. So it's not just about teaching them how to use the tools, but also
How to think about the tools.
exactly and how to think for themselves.
Right.
So what are some things that, we can do as individuals to make sure that we're not losing our ability to think critically?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just awareness. Just being aware of how much you're relying on AI
Yeah.
and making a conscious effort to think for yourself.
So like not just taking every recommendation at face value.
Exactly. Like maybe take a minute to think about why the AI is giving you that recommendation.
Also like question it a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe even try to come up with your own solution before you look at what the AI suggests.
That's a good point.
And remember, AI is a tool.
It is.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the choice is ultimately ours, how we use it.
So to all of our listeners out there,
Yeah.
knowing what we know now about AI and how it might be impacting our ability to think for ourselves,
Right.
how can we make sure that we're using this technology to our advantage
Mm-hmm.
while still maintaining, our own critical thinking skills?
Yeah, that's the big question.
I think that's something for all of us to ponder.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Yeah.
stay sharp.
Bye.
Bye.